Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of our Fundamentals for Success series, all part of our Love Strong podcast. I've got our special guest today, Jacob Crabb.
Man, honored to be here. I'm a little hurt that it took so long for me to be a guest on the show.
Well, I saw this fundamental and I immediately thought of you, and unfortunately it took a few weeks to get to this fundamental. We had to go in order. Sure. So, we save the best for last. So Awesome. We're almost to the end. So there's only two people that are better than you, essentially.
Well, I appreciate the honesty.
No.
Cool.
But this week, anyways, we're talking about fundamental number 26, deliver results. And so who better than our vice president of sales and marketing, the man in charge of making sure that we deliver on what we sell, Jacob Crabb. So Jacob, I'm going to read the fundamental and we're going to jump into what it means to deliver results, but I don't want to lose any intentionality or wording of how it was written.
Yep.
So this one's pretty short this week. It says, while effort is appreciated, we reward and celebrate results. Set goals, track progress, and hold yourself accountable for achieving those results. Simple, sweet, to the point.
That's right.
So when you think, let's step out of Diamond Seed at first. And when you hear that fundamental and you think, deliver results in the world of Jacob Crabb, not VP of Sales and Marketing, but Jacob Crabb, the dad, the husband, the son. How do you really work in your personal life to deliver results?
Yeah. What I appreciate about the fundamentals altogether is when we coach and preach and use them to guide Diamond C, hopefully we instill them into our team members to be introspective at home and away from Diamond C, and it just have that effect both places. So I'm glad we're going here. At home, to me, it's about intentionality, with your family. You say, you want to reward results. You're setting goals and stuff like that. And it's awkward to think or funny to think about it at home. But if you're intentional and whether it's with your spouse or your kids, just asking those questions, just taking some time to reflect on, where you've been, where you're at, and ask, thought-provoking questions to your kids and just get them talking. Like, take the time, put the dang phone down, take the time.
Absolutely. And
sit down and have a conversation. It sounds mushy, but, look into their eyes, listen well. One of our other fundamentals, listen well. Don't listen for just for your chance to respond. Listen to receive it and appreciate it, and then from there, you can write some stuff down. Like, this is where we're at. This is where we want to go, and then check in every now and then. Put it on your darn calendar. It sounds silly, but if you work off like we live off Google Calendar,
absolutely,
put it on there. Check in with my wife is Amanda. Check in with Amanda in a month to see, did we move the needle, and
yeah,
it's a big thing.
Yeah. I think about, when you kind of set goals and you're personally, and you're like, okay, I want to get in better shape, mm-hmm. or I want to, get closer in my walk with God, or I want to improve my relationship with my son. Right. And so when you have a lot of people, we get the New Year's resolutions and we'll set these goals. I'm going to read a book a month. I'm going to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to, go to church more regularly. And a lot of times, it's the joke of New Year's resolutions is they're gone by February, right? Right. Like, Valentine's Day, they're out the window.
Yeah.
And a lot of the reason that is because we're not setting goals and tracking progress, mm-hmm. and then holding ourselves accountable. Sure. And I think about that, we get that accountability at work a lot of times because we have a supervisor, right? Now at home, we both have supervisors, but there's not that clear system of accountability. They don't need to watch the podcast. That's not true. Exactly. But there's not that sense of accountability. Right. So a lot of these goals, you really have to hold yourself accountable
100%.
To truly live those out and, listen well and seek their understanding and really do what's necessary to move the needle and to get to where you want to be in those personal goals.
Yeah, you have to have that sense of extreme ownership, right? And it's not going to do it itself. It's not going to fix it itself. You have 100% ownership of your involvement in that relationship, in that lifestyle, in that home setting, or with other relationships, whether it's friends or whatever. You have 100% ownership of your involvement. And so again, no one's going to do it for you. You need some time, set aside some time to think about those things and set those, what are the, with your significant other, kids, whatever it is, what are those 3 to 5 things that over the next 6 months or a year you want to see to come to pass? And then what are some ways that you can keep up with it or track it to make sure that you're making progress? And one of those, like I was saying a while ago, is just putting it in a calendar just for check-ins with those relationships.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And you know, and when I work on leadership development, and we talk about this so often, that self accountability, that ownership is so hard to find in this world today, that, you know, and it oftentimes is the foundation of a lot of the issues that we face. And I use this example for myself because it's just a pure example of how shifting the mindset and really trying to hold myself accountable changed my life. It literally, I mean, there's no sugarcoating it, changed my life. 2 years ago, I was sitting at about 40 pounds heavier, and I always had excuses. Oh, I'm going to lose weight this way. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to lose weight. I don't like the way I look. I'm unhappy with my life. But I never had accountability for my actions. And I sat through a true story. I sat through a leadership development class, and it talked about self accountability and, you know, truly owning your choices. And it was like a light went off and it clicked, and it's like, nobody else is putting food in my mouth. No one else in this world is taking the food and requiring me to chew it in what I eat and what I do. And, you know, until I own that decision, you know, then all the results they're not going to happen until I take accountability for what I'm doing and I use that example a lot because it literally changed my life. And it's so empowering when you shift that mindset to truly hold yourself accountable and truly own, am I really doing what's needed to improve my health? Am I really doing what I can do to make my relationship better with my children? Am I truly walking and putting effort into my walk with Christ? And, you know, I mean, you can do it anything. You think about marriage, father-son relationships, or daughter for you, son for me. He has 2 daughters, I have 2 sons. But, you know, whatever it is, it's like when you really, like, truly take a hard look at that accountability, you'll start seeing all these things. You're like, well, of course I'm not spending time with my kids because I'm sitting here, you know, going into work early and staying at work late. And I say I want to improve my relationship with my family, but I'm putting work ahead of family.
But I'm not willing to set boundaries and
right. Yeah. I mean, you know, and so it's like all these choices that we feel we're victims of are truly.
Yep. That intentionality is so important that you just have to get outside of your current situation. You just have to stop, whether it's going, you know, taking 30, 45 minutes or an hour, whatever it is, and just spending some time, if more than likely alone, but just to think about your thoughts. I mean, it's crazy
to think of, right?
Yeah. And then how in those situations, what are the questions I can ask? Whether it's asking yourself or asking, you know, that other, the other person or party or whatever in the situation, but asking questions to better understand, you know, the result. Like if you have that check-in question with your wife, hey, how do you feel about where we're at, where we're going,
Yeah.
Well, don't ask to start saying, well, you need to do this, you need to do that. You need to ask with that extreme ownership of how can I help her or him better understand where I'm at. And then, you know, because again, you own 100% of what's in your arena.
Yeah.
And so,
and if, as Covey would say, in your circle of influence, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, you made me think of another thing, like when you talk about, you know, strive for win-win agreements, right? Another fundamental win-win agreements is you have to have the consideration to be willing to give them what they need in that relationship. You know, you think about asking your wife what they need, you got to have that consideration, but then also the courage to tell them what you need.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. I mean, you know, it's kind of bumping on another one, you know, another fundamental, but that create win-win solutions. A lot of people, what's so fascinating about it, they automatically think win-win means it's 50-50 all the time. It's
not compromise.
No, it's not. It's 100%. 100% win between me and the other person could be an 80-20 today. And I understand that.
Right.
But I know that the 80-20 is going to be a better tomorrow. And so that's what delivers the result.
Right.
is that intentionality.
Well, and let's segue into where we're going next. And you think about, win-win solutions in business and, and then delivering results, right? Some departments give 80 and receive 20, but then there's another department behind them that's giving them 80 and receiving 20 from them. And so it's, you're going to get your 100. You may be giving and getting it from different directions, but just because it's an 80-20 relationship, one street doesn't mean that someone else isn't, another department or another function of the company isn't, or another person in your life isn't doing 80-20 with you.
That's right.
You think about, you might be 80-20 with your kids, but you might be 80-20 with your parents, where your parents have been given 80 and you've been given 20 for your life. And now you're doing the same thing with your children. It's just one of those things. It's like, if the situation is 80-20 one way, well, then there's probably some 80-20s on the flip side as well with you.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's very relative, as far as relationally, that strategy or that thought process is relational in business too, because I mean, you spend so much time with me and you see each other a lot of times more than I see Amanda during the week and the waking hours. Right. And so we see each other a lot. And so for those relationships to grow and for you to, like this week's fundamental, watch out for one another. I mean, to do those things, I mean, unless you just want it to be daggum miserable,
right?
It's where we live.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, I want to get into some content about Diamond C, and especially, and I really wanted to dig into the sales and marketing world for you and you think about how important and crucial, I mean, it goes without saying how crucial it is for us to deliver our results, but you go back and you can kind of segue off of how you interact with your family. And it made me immediately start thinking about the way that Diamond C approaches our relationships with our dealers and how we really want to focus on making sure we're delivering results and listening to their needs, seeking through understanding to make sure, because if we could give them an amazing, perfectly built trailer, right? But if it's not the type of trailer that's selling, or, it's not what market they're in, or, area, the country or industry they're targeting, then it may sit on their lot. It may not move. Well, not right now, but, but in a different environment.
Yeah.
So open up and talk to us about how you really approach delivering results and what you do and what your departments do to really ensure that we're consistently delivering results, tracking progress, and holding, the sales and marketing team accountable to make sure that our dealers and our customers are getting an extraordinary product with customer service to match.
Yeah. Well, so first, there's so much that we do to fuel the growth and success of our dealers and the end user that obviously they don't have to see, but the result, the deliver results is the feeling they get. You just said it. They feel it. The feeling they get, the result they get, the trailer they get, all that. So a big thing, internally is tracking scorecard metrics. It's kind of similar to what I was talking about at home. You need to identify in a given area, what are those top handful of things that make sure that we're on the right trajectory to deliver results. And you need to systematically record those, report them, and watch for trends. And I mean, because that's obviously when it says set goals, that's what, we set the goal, we track the in-between metrics, and that's going to tell us, are we on track, off track? What are we doing? And that goes for, I mean, a lot of times people feel like that's only like a revenue number. But it goes so much further. It's even tracking impressions and sentiment and all that kind of stuff, whether it be marketing or sales or customer service. All of those, individual things add up to delivering results. And so you have to make sure you have a systematic way to track them. So,
yeah. I mean, you talked about, marketing and tracking metrics, and it's kind of one of those things like when the dealers don't necessarily see that, the effects of marketing, but the amount of marketing and what we do in that department truly sets them up for, success or failure. If we're creating more buzz and awareness of our product and, getting a lot of impressions and FaceTime with the consumer, it's going to help our dealers, move trailers,
exactly.
Right? Which is what they want to do. They want to move them, and currently we can't make them fast enough because they're just flying off the lots. But Like what are some metrics, or what are some areas that we really focus on with our dealers, with our sales department, and ensuring that our dealers are really getting the results that they desire?
Yeah. A big thing, you know, even if it's not in the tracking realm, I guess, is that when we're wanting to deliver results to dealers and make sure that they are very well taken care of, you know, the fundamentals in themselves, as we continue to go through them and we deliver results with our sales team or account managers, it kind of, the natural byproduct is for them to employ those behaviors to dealers, you know, and so they're getting the natural benefit of it, of the fundamentals. And so that we're not preaching them to dealers, but they are getting the natural kind of byproduct, and it translates into the care that they receive from us, that, hey, we know we don't live in a perfect world, production environment, stuff happens, but we are going to be there to back the product up. We're going to be there to back the dealer up. We're going to take care of you. Ultimately, we're going to do the right thing always. And so that's a big kind of, I guess, driver for us, is that natural relational connection to the dealers and that support. Yeah, absolutely.
And so, you know, moving and talking about how we can hold ourselves accountable and how we can, you know, really track our progress in the personal and professional world. What are some ways? And, you know, when you get into this fundamental, and every week I really always want to touch on this, because I think it's super important to really give our listeners and give our team members and our community an opportunity to understand how they can right the ship when they begin to stray. And I think about, you know, you try and live these fundamentals, and you focus and you read them and you study them and you listen to the podcast, but eventually you're going to get wrapped up in the stresses of the day, and you're going to start to stray from one or all of them at some point. Yeah. And so what I really want to do is equip our listeners with kind of some red flags they can take down on their notes, or, you know, keep in the back of their mind, that says, if I notice that I'm doing this, or I'm seeing these type of results or these events in my life, that I'm probably not focusing on or edifying this fundamental deliver results. So could you give them, you know, you can relate that to the sales team or your personal life, or what are some examples of some red flags that would say you're not living this fundamental?
I think it goes back to the whole intentionality. Encompasses a lot, because if you've done these things, you've set up some metrics to watch, you've been intentional to watch for reactions from your kids or your wife or whatever, you're going to see that, you know, you should see the kind of signs, right? And then the point is stop, reflect, where are we at? What caused this? Getting the right people around you to reevaluate. If it's in a team setting, you know, if I have an issue that's persisting in sales, I'm going to get the right people, whether it's the customer service reps who are taking the calls, and then the sales guys, the leaders around me, and we're going to have a post-mortem is what a lot of people call it, where it's already dead. It's, you know, you've realized it, it's done, but let's figure out where it went wrong, where it got off the tracks, and are our metrics still valid? What we're looking at, are those still the right things? Because what got you here isn't going to get you there. Yeah, right. It's a famous saying around here. Saying it a lot, yeah. And so, but in that, it'll get you there for a while. Yeah. It may be the right thing for 3 months, for 6 months, you know, and so it's really identifying, you know, where it went wrong, and getting the right people around you, and then resetting goals, having a reset, taking a time out to think about where you're at and where you're going again. And it's just a ever evolving process. Yeah. I mean, it's not going to stop. Yeah. It's going as long as you're breathing air, unless you just decide differently, that you're just going to not want to get better or do anything, which is, I mean, most folks' natural inclination, hey, I want to do better. I want to do better by this person. I want to do a better job. I want to grow. I want to, and so, you know, it's going to be a cycle, and you get to own what the cycle looks like, but you have to be intentional to design it. Right.
So it's funny. I think you said about 3 or 4 fundamentals in that extra, being relentless about progress, think process oriented, invest your time in seeking clarity, and taking that moment to think about what you're thinking about. Craig Rochelle lives by that statement. Your life is always moving in the direction of your strongest thoughts, right? Like whatever is at the front of your mind is steering the ship for your life. And, and so maybe people don't take that time to reevaluate and figure out, what am I really focusing on? What is it that I'm doing? If you go into that accountability, that holds yourself accountable to really look at your internal direction and thoughts.
A huge part of this is humility.
Yeah.
I mean, 100%. If you have an issue of being humble and being introspective, this probably is not going to ever really work out well. The interest as far as evaluating and resetting and all that, because it's that whole ownership piece. You've got to have a dose of humility to balance the system and to balance that flow that I was talking about. That's always going to be there. You're going to have some humility to say, this is me. Like this, I did this, or maybe I didn't do this,
right?
Or maybe I didn't support this person in this way, or
how can
and it's
I
not
get
a bad
better?
thing. It's not a negative thing. It doesn't have to be. You're not beating yourself up. You're just saying, look, I'm confidently saying I have ownership in this, and I can control, I can control a lot of the dynamics around it. Anything that is in my realm, I can have influence, impact, whatever you want to say.
Right.
You have control.
I agree. 100% agree. I mean, the self accountability, that's what I have in bold letters, on my paper here, is hold yourself accountable.
Yep.
That doesn't mean, for everybody listening and watching, that doesn't mean that there's not going to be things out of your control that are going to happen.
Yeah.
But that happens all across the platform. Everyone has adversity, different levels. Not saying it's going to be equitable. Everybody's going to have the same hardships in life. But at the end of the day, adversity, no adversity, the only thing that's going to determine your success or your failure is how much you hold yourself accountable for the actions you take. Yep. And at the end of all things else, that's the key factor.
Yep.
Are you putting in the time? Are you being relentless about progress? Invest your time, setting up the process, right? I mean, you nailed, all those feeding fundamentals. And in reality, that's kind of why this one's towards the end. It's because you're going to be putting together the other fundamentals to really get to a point where you're delivering consistent results. Because without a process, you may get results once, but then you're not going to be able to repeat that.
Yeah. All of that is essentially building your toolbox, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's great stuff. And, it leads into there's only 2 more fundamentals in our 28. Now we started at 17 just based on timing. But next week we're doing celebrate success. And then the last one is invest your time. And so once we deliver results, right, at that point, it even says it in this fundamental to celebrate. We celebrate and reward results. Right.
Yep.
But yeah, so if you take anything from this and from this episode and what Jacob said is, one, to really track your progress and seek thorough understanding. If you want to improve your relationships in your life, if you want to, improve your health or whatever your goals are, you don't have to, pick or choose anything. There's not a perfect way to live your life, but right. What is it that you want to get better at, and hold yourself accountable to set those goals, to seek thorough understanding, ask and listen well, and really be intentional about gaining progress and delivering results. And then, and second, in your professional life or with the fundamental, really work to hold yourself accountable and to take those moments to clarity breaks, reevaluate, set up a process so that you can get consistent results and truly deliver results on a consistent basis. Because in business or in life, you've got to show up every day to work. You've got to wake up and you've got to be the father. You've got to be the VP of marketing and sales, and you've got to consistently be their leader and deliver for your team and for the company. And so the only way you can do that is by setting up a process and thinking process order. And then, last but not least, really take a moment to step back and reevaluate. And as Jacob said, practice humility. Practice that ability to have true conversations with yourself about where you can improve and really look into yourself and be honest, because if we're not honest with ourselves, then we're not going to be honest with anybody. Yeah. So that's all for this week. Next week, as I said, we'll be doing fundamental number 27, celebrate success. Thanks for coming on, Jacob.
You're welcome.
Until then, make sure y'all do work and love strong.